We've had a phenomenal day, with the start, the kind of insights that have flown in from all of our speakers, which of course brings us now to our next session, which is all about saying aye to AI. They often say that the only gen that is taking the nation forward is Gen Z and Gen AI. Well, there's a lot to talk about that, but let's try to understand with regard to AI, is it the great disruptor or the great equalizer? We're about to get some incredible leaders join us and participate in the discussion. What we decided is, let's start off the session, and then we'll have all our rest of our peers join in. So without any delay, let's actually get to begin the session for all of you. Now, first up, joining us, we're truly honored to welcome Brigadier General David Barnes of the United States Army. He's a senior military leader with extensive operational and strategic experience who's played key roles in advancing defense cooperation and security partnerships. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I'd like you to please take your seat here. I think that deserves a louder round of applause, everyone. Let's bring that energy back in the air. Absolutely. Well, I've also been informed that we were to have the presence of Mr. Sanjay Puri, the founder and chairman of US Impact. However, he couldn't make it due to last-minute exigencies. But that being said, we march ahead to invite none other than the co-founder and CEO of Indic AI, who's building AI-native platforms across education, media, and fintech. We have with us Mr. Sanjay Salil. Thank you so much again for joining in. And we're talking about AI, but we will need the right kind of humane interaction to bind it together, which is why we have a veteran journalist and defense expert who comes with more than 30 years of experience. He's the editor-in-chief of Chakra News and leads the Escape Velocity Media Works. Please put your hands together to welcome Sandeep Unithan. Thank you so much, Sandeep. With that, I'll hand over the proceedings to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I must say that we had a very interesting conversation over coffee just a few minutes back, and we've been asked to continue with that conversation. And fascinating, to hear from a military veteran and now a public policy expert on AI and many other things. And of course, Sanjay Salil is a former colleague of mine at the India Today group. We're meeting after a very long time, 20 years almost. So it's good to catch up with you, Sanjay. But I want to start with you, Dr. Barnes. I'll call you Dr. Barnes because that's the academic hat that you wear now. And, for the benefit of the audience, I must tell you that we have had AI in India for 80 years or more, I think. In fact, I used AI to come here to Bombay from Delhi, and that's Air India. But on a more serious note, I was watching this video, Dr. Barnes, just this morning, showed super soldiers, literally infantry armed with automatic rifles. And it turned out that that was an AI video, right? And it was Chinese, of course. And it looked like super soldiers, super infantry, loyal wingman kind of thing of infantry. Are we looking at an arms race in AI? Where do you see this headed?
So thank you. First off, I want to thank the organizers, the FECC, and the ministry for inviting me to participate. And thank you for the audience for bearing with us. Because what we didn't tell you is we covered everything already over coffee, and so now we're going to play catch up a little bit. But on a more serious note, this conception of an AI arms race has been promulgated, it's been widely discussed, it's debated. Although I'm not sure that calling it an arms race, akin to, say, the nuclear arms race, is really as accurate. There is certainly going to be competition and continuing to be competition. And anytime there's a new disruptive technology, there's a lot of angst and fear over the technology. But what we saw there, in a sense, was a deep fake. But at the same time, militaries have forever been looking at ways to gain an advantage over their adversaries, in particular through technology. And so what you see happening in a global sense is developing the technology with an eye towards the competitive advantage. You see it in the private sector as well as the public sector. And there's, add to the mix that makes this whole notion of an arms race even more complex, is there's a lot of hype about the technology, right? Promise what it can do for you today or immediately tomorrow, as opposed to the longer-term strategy to develop, to be able to develop and employ it to actually get those benefits from the technology. I think the way to look at it is that we're in, and that's globally, intense competition, but at the same time, I think there's an opportunity to provide close collaboration so that we avoid stepping off in the end, right, something catastrophic, existential, but also to solve some of the real problems that we have both at home and abroad.
Right, absolutely. And you know, I was reminded of a line from my favorite science fiction film, Blade Runner, where Deckard says that replicants are like any other any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem. So that's AI for you. But Sanjay, you're an entrepreneur using AI. You know, tell us how it has changed things in the 3 or 4 years that you've started using it. Where do you see the potential for AI adoption in India? Is it a benefit? Is it a hazard? Is it going to create large-scale disruption, you know, job losses and all that we've been hearing in the last couple of weeks?
So thank you, Sandeep. I think it will do all of these. It will be a disruptor, but it will also create the democratization process that we have not seen before. And if you pick up examples in at least where we are using AI to create models, to create solutions, one of them is education. Now imagine that somebody sitting in Nalanda, because I'm picking up Bihar, I'm from Nalanda, and Piyush Goyal ji mentioned about Bihar. So imagine somebody sitting in Nalanda where in a classroom there are 200 students. How do you teach them so that everybody understands and learns in the same way? You can't, but AI can do that. AI can create that personalization at the scale which we can't even imagine. And not only Nalanda, if you apply this to the entire world, it changes the dynamics of personalized learning in a way that for every student, AI comes to their level and takes them from that level to the level which is desired. So it will create that, but it will also create the divide which we have not seen before. So we have seen digital divide in the world, but AI divide is going to be much bigger than digital divide if people do not adopt it quickly. But everybody cannot also adopt it because infrastructure is not there globally. Even in India, we are still ramping it up. But that adoption will change everything. But one thing is for sure, that it is going to be combined intelligence, then only you can succeed. So AI alone cannot do everything. The human in loop will remain, and will remain for a very, very long time. And that will change the reskilling process of individuals and create bigger opportunities to my mind.
Right, that's very interesting. You know, and the point that you made about the digital divide, and we have the AI divide now. Dr. Barnes, the reskilling, how is this going to play out? And who's going to, you know, drive this reskilling? Is it going to be governments? Is it going to be civil society? Who actually drives this process?
I think that the who question is absolutely one of the right questions to ask. And the other follow-up to that is how, right? Because you hear leaders in both public sector and private sector saying, oh, we want to ensure there's going to be this huge job loss. We want to ensure that we're going to have upskilling or reskilling of our employees. But they're not describing how they're actually going to do it. How are they going to resources? What's the strategy to do that? Some companies have gone as far as said, well, do it on your own, and that will demonstrate that you're loyal to the company, et cetera. And that seems insufficient, right? So in a sense, I think there needs to be efforts both on the governmental side. In the U.S., it'll probably be more in the private sector, right, where the goal is to how to bring the education level of the entire population, gaining it, as you mentioned, right, so that the access to the artificial intelligence. I think also in terms of education, AI may offer us an opportunity to reimagine what education can be and to correct some of the shortcomings, right, to meet students where they're at, but also to move it forward, building on building blocks, critical reasoning, fundamental skills you have, getting artificial intelligence in the right sort of way, in the right sort of environment, in the hands of the youngest people so that they can gain that advantage and be an active part of the workforce in terms of government and really take advantage of these things. If not, we'll continue having a divide between the haves and have-nots that's only going to continue to be exacerbated and increase in the future.
Right. You know, Sanjay, we were talking a little while earlier about these two AI models, AI development models. One is, of course, the United States, which took the lead on that, and then China, which is catching up very quickly. What is the Indian AI story so far? Did we arrive to this very late in terms of, you know, there's that very famous example of one big company which was asked to invest a lot of money in AI, and the founder said, no, I don't think it's a big deal. Let's forget it. And today we are playing catch up.
So we are late for sure because, you know, India traditionally lacks the kind of capital this kind of innovation requires. And I think in one of the panels I was listening to that, the risk appetite on new technology, which is very, very expensive, is not there. But India is in a great position now. I think India has a great role to play in the entire AI display. And where is that role for us? The role for us is not so much in what was being innovated, but entire application where AI will become useful for different segments, education, sports, banking, etc., etc. India has the benefit of having people who understand this and very quickly at a price that is very, very competitive, and also to apply that at a very large number of population within India and globally. So I think India is getting its act together, and the AI summit is running in Delhi. You can see everybody in the world is here, and for
the first of its kind in the
yes, it is, and for a reason.
Global South.
For a reason, you know, everybody is here. So I think the importance of India, due to its expertise in the skill set, talent, makes us very uniquely positioned. And I think in the long run, India would be competing with US and China on a different level, but very, very sharply.
So, you know, again, to take forward our conversation, Dr. Barnes, we had about the Indian model, the Chinese model, and the American model. Can democracies innovate technology better than dictatorships, totalitarian states?
Right. I mean, so, you know, paraphrasing Winston Churchill, right? Democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others, right? And so, in a sense, not saying that that's all we have, but look at it as an opportunity, right? So there is benefit, right, to having a much more totalitarian, if you would, but a centralized approach, right? And that helps guide not just innovation, but fundings and incentives are all aligned. The problem with that is you become narrowly focused on a particular set of outcomes. What innovation and democracy does is it's opportunity to really stimulate the entrepreneurial spirit. We don't know where the next innovation is going to come from. There are some general goals that we want to see the technology moving. We also have a good set of issues, concerns that we want to be able to tackle. But I think having that broad base, having engaged the different facets of all the community working, because again, you're not going to be sure where the next innovation is going to come from, and you don't want to be able to stifle that. And the other thing that I think that you can do in a democracy as well is you can pivot to those new innovations. Right? And then also see where those innovations align with other streams of innovation. So then collectively you end up with something even greater than the single stream focused along one particular path. Again, and it's also, we're not developing, the purpose of our technology is not to create another surveillance state, right? It's in order to solve the really very focused problems, both that we have internally at home, but also abroad.
The purpose of AI is not to form a surveillance society, but I think that's where a lot of this is headed to. But I guess it's a, glass half empty, glass half full debate. But Sanjay, how can we advance the benefits of AI to all members of society? There is this backdrop of the competition, the arms race that we spoke about. How can we ensure that AI advances human dignity and equity rather than, widening the disparities and the divides that already exist? And that's a very big problem in India.
I think, Sandeep, we need to look at the core sectors, and core sectors where state needs to deliver or state needs to talk to people are education, health, infrastructure, etc., etc. When you will marry the problem statement and the solution of AI, and that is happening, already happening. And in one of our companies, we are on education, we are talking to a couple of governments in India, and I see the enthusiasm. There might be still, they may lack the framework that how do they implement this. But when you will implement such solutions at a scale, and when you will do it, and I can tell you, 3 years ago, the cost of building such things was exorbitant. Today, it has come down dramatically, and it will keep going that way in years to come. So when we will marry problems of education, health, agriculture for India with AI capabilities, I think it will create a very, very uniquely positioned societies for us. And you can ask everybody in this room, everybody is using AI in one form or the other, whether they know it or they don't know it. Even they are not AI scientists, they are not AI engineers, but everybody is using. I'll tell you this story. So I met someone I'm studying at Harvard, so I met a lady there, and she said, I'm totally against AI. I said, why? She said, it will eat all our jobs. I said, okay. She had come from Canada. She said, I told her, do you use WhatsApp? She said, yes. I said, open your WhatsApp and just write a question. I am here for 4 days in Boston. Can you give me an itinerary? It created itinerary in like seconds. She said, I exactly do this for a living. I don't know Toronto so well the way it does. That changed her perspective that how you can use the same AI for your benefit. Similarly, when we will use all these capabilities, and this is a smaller capability, all these capabilities for the society, for our problems, I think it will be a wonderful thing to have.
Right. So, a wonderful thing indeed, but there's a flip side to it as well. The benefit-hazard debate, we were talking about a little while earlier, Dr. Barnes. Now, you've done some pioneering research on private military contractors about the ethics of using PMCs. Do you see a similar dilemma that exists here in artificial intelligence, in the use of it in the military space, that there is an ethical issue there? How do you ensure transparency there so that it's not misused by, exactly like how it's been used for a travel guide? A terrorist organization could use that. How do you, ensure that that doesn't happen?
Sure. I think, if you're looking at the way that AI-enabled technology is spreading so rapidly, I mean, if you're optimistic, you might say, and we talked about this, right? It's democratized. If you're pessimist, maybe you think it's a proliferation. And certainly, people with more nefarious intent could obviously try to leverage the technology to gain some kind of asymmetric, advantage over an adversary, even say a terrorist organization against a nation state. But in a sense, I think, with private security, akin to leveraging new technology, Clausewitz, I think, was right to say that the character war will change, right? And so you'll see coming into a force that is created and elevated from the civilian population in a democratic society of all volunteer force, swinging the door back to a paid, a more mercenary type force like you see, but the nature of war is not going to change. It's the same with the technology. And there will always be embedded these ethical considerations. And certainly some of those are global. We think about discriminating between, combatants and non-combatants, about proportionality, minimizing harm, sort of at this broader sense, but also what's aligned with the values of the state that's not just building a technology, but it's going to use it. And can they ensure whether you're paying a soldier, a mercenary to fight for you, or you plan on using some sort of technology to achieve those ends? I mean, there's the question is are those aligned with the values that you not just profess, but actually have as part of your identity? And I think if we hold true to those values, then a lot of those other questions are sort of answered. But yes, there certainly is this idea, right, much like you mentioned in the video starting out, that we're going to see these super soldiers and there are no sort of constraints, either legal or moral or otherwise. But historically, that's not the case, I don't think. And I don't think it's going to be the same way with AI.
Right. So, Sanjay, where are we exactly with AI? I understand it's very early days. Your company is what, 4 years old? 3 years old. That's how young AI is. So we are in the early phase of AI adoption and all of this disruption. Are we at a stage where we can actually correctly predict whether AI's transformative impact is going to be, the risks outweigh the benefits? Where exactly are we in that?
So no, we don't know. Honestly, if I have to be brutally honest, we do not know the answers. And we also do not know what is the future. What we know for sure that there are a lot of benefits. We also know that the way innovation is happening in AI, and if we have to trust, if we have to take Mr. Elon Musk prediction, by end of this year, AI will be better than humans in many, so what it means
by the end of 2026.
Yes, so what it means is right now, in very simple term, what AI does is it memorizes. So it goes through all the data, everything that is available to AI in the world, on this planet. It memorizes and it gives you answer from that. So it has no intelligence. But what is being predicted that by end of this year, it will also have its own intelligence. And if we have that, then the human intervention will become less and less. I don't know what will be the benefit. One of the generalistic view is that people will become much better, the way it happened in computers, the way it happened with the telephones. This is the argument we use, but nobody knows to be sure.
That's very interesting. So, Dr. Barnes, what are the warning signs that would tell you? What would be the canary in the cage, which would tell you that we are going down the right path? Or what is the other side of it that tells you that there's a problem, that, open the pod bay door, Hal. I'm sorry, Steve, I can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Would it be that moment?
I have to agree. I think we don't know. We don't know really the true opportunities. We have futurists, those visionaries who are telling us these amazing things that this technology is going to do for us in the very near future, and what it could be, and also making similar claims about the risks. Part of my concern that's driven by that we're fielding the technology when it's not necessarily ready, like it's not sure that it's tested and it's fit for purpose, that we may become the proverbial frog in the boiling water, right? That we don't know that we're reaching some really critical point in our risk that we should have accounted for and mitigated, because it's just something we hadn't imagined, right? In the meantime. But the flip side of that coin is there's these incredible opportunities that there is a risk that the naysayers about the technology, I think, underplay, and that is, what is the risk of not trying to innovate? And what are the potential losses that we do, and we continue on certain paths, or whether it's global issues or things of these nature, where maybe it's worth taking a step in leveraging the technology. But I think part of the issue as well is the technology, as amazing as it is, and everyone's using it, right? And it's every day it seems to grow in new features and whatnot. It's relatively technologically immature, and so we're trying to do this prediction on what it may and can do, but organizations aren't really prepared to truly leverage it at scale as is. So until we really find large organizations that are truly leveraging AI in terms of all the features, their functions, really moving their strategy forward, well, then we'll really be able to assess, what the potential ROI is going to be. Right now, we're kind of guessing at what I think it would be. And the same thing is about the risk.
Right. So, Sanjay, what is the one thing that you think governments, civil societies should do now to ensure that, it lands on the side of benefits to society rather than, all the other alarms that we've raised?
And this is a brilliant question, Sandeep. And I would just like to add to Brigadier General's last comment that you are definitely at risk if you are not thinking, or thinking is still far, it's left behind. If you are not implementing AI in whichever capacity you are, if you are a president of a country, if you are a CEO of an organization, wherever you are, if you are not implementing it, you are at definite risk. To answer your question, so first thing is that you must understand this ecosystem. And I'll tell you, so we work a lot in Africa, and I was in a country which has the biggest economy of Africa. And we were trying to implement some AI. And I was shocked to know they didn't have even one GPU. One GPU. I said, how you are the biggest economy of Africa, of 250 million people, and you don't have one GPU? So they are definitely at risk. But this risk will become, and this is what I was talking about, AI divide. Then this will become so huge, you cannot bridge that gap. What governments, of course, they are very smart people. Politicians are very smart people. They know what matters to them.
Finger on the pulse of the people.
Exactly. Right? But at this stage, what they are thinking, oh, let everybody do it, then we'll do it. You won't be able to do it. Because AI is moving at a speed in every direction, and your people are already using it through some channel. So if you do not make it institutional, then you are at a major, major risk.
You want to come in on that, Dr. Barnes? What
Absolutely.
Companies should do?
Because, again, a lot of the focus, I think it's rightly so, on the technology, and it is amazing. And there is this phenomenon of shadow AI. Everyone's using it, even if the official policies are saying no, or we haven't sorted it out, how we're going to do the government's program and the guidelines within our organization. But I think where the true friction point is the company themselves, right? The leadership in the organization isn't prepared to leverage the technology in what it is today, but what it can be in the future. So, how are the senior leaders educating themselves about the technology? Are they on their own trying to develop agents and playing around with them? There's this struggle that's going on, I think, somewhat universally, where you can't move from the pilots, the MVPs of these testing, which I think is phenomenal, and the companies are doing that, to get the scale, because the organization is so slow to transform. So again, it comes back to culture, it comes back to strategy, it's having leaders with the right intent and vision, the incentives within that organization, and you can't get all that straight and then get the technology. So now you've got the added complication where you're purchasing the technology, you're playing with it at the same time, you're actually transforming your organization. But those who do that well, they're going to win. Organizations that fail to do that, unfortunately, I think are going to be left behind. Not just technologically, but also from a business standpoint as well.
Right. So that's moving at a blistering pace, and it's only been, 4 years. But Sanjay, you're an entrepreneur in this space. You've been around for 3 years. What do you think, as of now, in 2026, what are the biggest benefits that AI has actually delivered to us? What are the tangible benefits in the last 3 years, to your mind?
So it has really democratized the knowledge. All of the knowledge may not be correct, which you get from AI. But today, let's say if you want to know anything about anything, Google used to do it, but not at this scale. But what AI can do, you can have a conversation with ChatGPT, Gemini, cloud, which is from Anthropic, Perplexity. You can have a discussion. If you want to just ask that, I'm Sandeep, I'm 35 years old, I'm trying to make you younger. So I'm
Thank you,
35 years old. I want to do a business in this domain. What shall I do? And begin from here and give the AI a prompt that think like the best consultant in the world who is paid $10,000 a day, and give me brutal answers and think deeply. If you give these prompts, Sandeep, you would be amazed that consultants from McKinsey, from top companies, they would struggle to give you that answer which AI will give you in 1 minute. If you know how to use that, and this is all free to you. This is all free to you. Earlier, to make a business plan and or anything, anything related to our own lives, to make that, you would not know where to start from. And today, you sit, you have that discussion. So to my mind, to everybody, this is the most biggest value it has delivered. And then in every business, so we are right now, I also run an AI company in financial services. And we are implementing the entire core system for a bank in India in their 4,000 branches, where if you go and you don't need to fill up the form anymore. You just give your details and it will do the entire process for you. That value would be immense. Coming back to Brigadier General's point, that if you can marry the domain expertise with AI and deep marriage, it creates amazing results.
It's an absolutely devastating combo there. But Dr. Barnes, what is your takeaway? What's been the biggest benefit that AI has given humanity in the last 3 years that it's been around? Sanjay spoke about the democratization of knowledge. That's a very big thing. And some of the consultants, I believe, are the biggest users of AI. I saw some figures recently. They're using AI as well. But what's your take on this?
Right, and we don't want to say it's just memes and deepfake videos, right? I mean, certainly there's that aspect. So increasing in popularity. I think there's two major areas that currently and in the very near future where you're going to see the most leverage. In addition to just the prompting of the large language models. The first one is in decision support, where, taking the next step from just asking the consultation questions, right, to being able to generate for the decision maker, not just 2 or 3 courses of actions, but tens of courses of actions. And then red team those courses of actions against all these different contexts and situations to be able to provide that decision maker a much better, more clearly defined decision space. I think that's one area where we're already seeing improvements, and it's going to continue to grow. And just as a word of note, I know many people are fearful of sort of letting the system make the decisions for you, but recent studies in high risk analysis in areas that the human team that leverages artificial intelligence enabled systems to help them develop these courses of actions and then test them before making a decision outperform both the just complete human system and organization as well as those that the artificial intelligence is allowed to actually make that decision. Because you don't have the experience, you don't have the tacit knowledge, you don't have all those things. So I think that's important. You're going to see much more elevation of that human-machine teaming. And I think the other area is in physical AI. There was a fascinating panel earlier today on AI in medicine. Healthcare was pharma, of course. But one of the innovations was leveraging AI in stethoscopes to allow that doctor, whether in a city or in a remote location, to be able to get a better diagnosis of their patients more rapidly and more extensively. I think is absolutely fascinating. That's just one example where you see whether it's how it's going to support medicine, how it's going to support manufacturing, and we're already seeing it may be currently the peak of autonomous driving. But you see the next generation of those. And I think that those two areas where we'll see the most promise.
Right. So it's like human-machine teaming. Reminds me of another great Indian brand called HMT. So, but you know, Sanjay, there are a lot of young faces here, and I'm sure they want some advice from you as an entrepreneur in this very new and emerging field. What are the kind of career opportunities that young people should be looking at now? Is coding dead? A lot of people seem to suggest that coders are not going to be required in the way that they were in the past. So what are the jobs of the future? What should be our focus?
So I do not believe that coders won't be required. They would be required. Although when Anthropic came with that model, you saw the bloodbath in IT companies. They would be required, but they need to be very very open to AI and any opportunity that brings. And their biggest competition would be, and it's not so much worrisome for young people. It's more worrisome for people who are more experienced, because young people in my companies, in our companies, we have seen they are far superior than mature people, than experienced people, because they are not reimagining AI like us. They are living AI. They are already a product of AI. So my only suggestion would be just be open, keep your eyes and ears open, and just latch on this opportunity. Don't let it go.
Don't let it go. But Dr. Barnes, what's your advice to young people who are looking at career opportunities in AI? Which way should they head?
Well, there's an adage that you hear more and more that's you're not going to be replaced by AI, but someone using AI is going to replace you, right? And so, it's forming those fundamental building blocks. You need to understand the technology relative to your position. One of the things, the lines of effort that we were working on, in the government, but I continue to harp on now is what's the AI for the every person, right? And this gets back to what you're doing, Sanjay, with education, leveraging both the software, but then thinking about how the software can really empower the education to prepare them for the workforce. My son is in sports marketing, right? And so the marketing field is absolutely being transformed by artificial intelligence. And those who are able to leverage that, right, and doing it in the right way, are gaining in leaps and bounds over those that are only focused on using traditional methods. But I think, that our youth, they're very exciting. They're innovative, they're hungry. They are going to find not just ways to innovate in terms of the technology, but imagine ways to use that technology that, again, old folks like I am, right, just can't even think about that. And so I think the future is really promising in that aspect. Part of it, as well as being one of the more mature part of the generation, is we're really not using the technology, right? I'm only scratching the surface in my lifetime. But how are we setting the conditions for the next generation after that, to take advantage of it? Are we going to properly identify what the risks are and be able to mitigate that for them so that they can accelerate the innovation and take advantage of it? And then are we giving them the building blocks? And I think if we fail to do that, then we'll really have done a disservice to our children and our grandchildren.
Right, absolutely. So, in conclusion, we're coming to the end of our fascinating discussion, which we will continue after this as well. But I have to ask you this, Sanjay. Overall, what do you think? Is it a benefit? Is it a disruptor? Is it a leveler? Is it an equalizer? How do you see AI?
So like I said, Sandeep, it is all of this. It will depend on how societies, countries, leaders will use it, or individual for that matter. If you can use AI to make videos and reels, but you can also use deepfakes. But you can also use AI to create an alternate economy of creating songs and videos, which would be a very difficult proposition for today's musicians. So there are many, many layers. And very quickly, I'll tell you, a friend of mine, he exports mangoes to Europe. And his issue used to be that in the shipment, if there are 10 mangoes which are not good, then the entire shipment gets rejected. So today, AI can diagnose and tell you which mango is not good as per your specification. So it can be used across the spectrum, and if you use it to your advantage, if you're mindful of that, I think you are going to be benefited.
Right, absolutely. And Dr. Barnes, your take on this? A benefit, a leveler, or a disruptor?
So, because I am a philosopher, I can say with accuracy that it's going to be both, and all this space in between, just like you're saying, Sanjay. Because but it again depends on some of the choices that we make now. If we look at how the technology is going to be diffused, if we're not taking a look at how we're going to increase access to artificial intelligence across society in all different sectors, then it's just going to exacerbate the current differences between the stratum within your society. As we talked about briefly, I look at AI often as a spotlight. It shines the light on those things that your organization, your country, your government, those things you're doing well, and it really reveals in the dark corners where things are going wrong. And it's not necessarily that means you can't improve those areas, but again, taking this step and thinking through how are we going to prepare our organization to take advantage of it is going to be the real key. And if we do it in the right way, then it actually can be an equalizer. It actually can, and again, it won't happen tomorrow, but solve many of the problems that we have, ensure that we have increased collaboration, partnership, and really advance all our societies forward. And so that's the hope and the promise of future I'm looking for.
Right, absolutely. A very, very positive outlook from both Sanjay and Dr. Barnes, and I'm sure you've given our audience here a lot of food for thought, and I'm sure a lot of them would really appreciate your very deep insights on this topic. And I want to thank you for joining us today. It is a fascinating, absolutely fascinating conversation. Sanjay, Dr. Barnes, two practitioners, a philosopher and a practitioner of AI. I want to thank you for taking out your time and for your deep insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you for not asking tough questions.
No, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandeep. Thank you to our panelists as well. I'd like to request you to please step forward. We'll have a quick photo op as well. And what a fascinating conversation, just in Sandeep's words, and I truly reckon that. I truly admit to that as well. We've thoroughly enjoyed. With that being said, we will now move on to our finale session over here. So I'd like to urge all of you to continue being seated, because we will now move on to our final session, which is all about decoding the blue economy. That's our final session for the day. I'd like to urge all of you to continue being seated. Our speakers will just join in the next couple of minutes.